Welcome to Canada's Business Model Competition 2016. This is Canada's only national business model competition and is hosted by the Norman Newman Centre for Entrepreneurship at Dalhousie University. Winners from the 2016 Canada's Business Model Competition will move on to compete at the International Business Model Competition taking place at the Microsoft campus in Redmond, Washington this May. The competition is open to student ventures from post-secondary institutions across Canada who use the business model canvas, customer discovery processes, and evidence-based iterations to validate their business idea, determining their business model. The competition will take place on March 4th and March 5th at the Rose School of Business, Dalhousie University, Halifax, Nova Scotia. Teams will compete for a share of a $50,000 prize package sponsored by Deloitte. The first team will receive a prize package of $25,000 comprised of $15,000 in cash and $10,000 in-kind services. The second place prize is a package totaling $15,000 comprised of $9,000 in cash and $6,000 in-kind services. The third place team will receive a prize of $10,000 comprised of $6,000 in cash and $4,000 in in-kind services. Most of the questions we receive around Canada's business model competition have to do with the eligibility of the teams. So we'll spend most of our time in this webinar talking about eligibility criteria. The eligibility requirements of Canada's business model competition are consistent with those of the International Business Model Competition. However, we do want to recognize and point out that there is no one set of criteria that can apply to every single set of circumstances. Therefore, the organizers of Canada's business model competition reserve the right to determine the eligibility or to disqualify any team that it determines to be in violation of the spirit of the competition. Similarly, the organizers of Canada's business model competition recognize that there may be special circumstances where a student team feels that they may fit the spirit of the competition, but may be in violation, a minor violation of one or two of the eligibility criteria. In these cases, student teams may submit a petition via email to info@launchdal.com. Organizers of Canada's business model competition will consider each case individually, and all decisions made by Canada's business model competition organizers are final. So let's get started and have a look at the eligibility criteria. The competition is open to student venture teams. How large or small can the teams be? Student teams can range in size from 2 students to 5 students. This brings us to the next question: what constitutes a student? Students that have been enrolled full-time at a university are automatically considered to be students and eligible. Students enrolled on a part-time basis in a post-secondary institution since last May that have obtained a minimum of 6 credit hours, that is, for example, they may have completed 2 part-time courses, each with 3 credit hours, they are considered students and are eligible for the competition. Students that graduated last May, that's May 2015, are also considered students and eligible for the competition. In terms of executive roles, students must hold 50% of the executive roles in the venture. That is, the students must hold 50% of the positions at the C level in the business, such as CEO, CTO, COO, etc. In terms of ownership, students must have a minimum of 20% ownership of the venture. This means that the other 80% ownership of the venture can be outside of the student team, and the venture is still eligible. Questions around revenue generation often come up, and we want to provide clarification on this as well. Can a venture that begins to earn revenue over the course of validating the business model canvas be eligible for the competition? The answer to this is yes, as long as the venture is not earning substantial revenue, and as long as the venture is considered a new venture, and this revenue was earned through the course of customer discovery and the business model validation process. Because the competition is for new startups and to assure the ventures are new ventures, restrictions are put in place regarding revenue generation. It may be the case, however, that the venture does actually earn revenue during the process of validating its business model canvas. So minimum revenue generation is definitely allowed through the customer discovery process. Cases where student ventures are earning substantial revenue, for example, greater than $100,000, will be considered on a case-by-case basis, and it will come down to how quickly did the venture begin to earn revenue. If this occurred over the last 2 academic terms over which students were enrolled in school, and it occurred through the business model validation process, they may be considered eligible for the competition. When it comes to investment, the competition is open to student venture teams with no more than $100,000 US in investment from friends, family, debt sources, accelerators, incubators, or government sources. What constitutes a venture? Ventures in this competition are new startups and therefore cannot include the following. Ventures cannot be a buyout from a previous company. They cannot be something that's created for a tax shelter. They cannot be an expansion of an existing company. Could not be a real estate syndication, a franchise, a licensing agreement for distribution in a different geographical area, or they could not be a spin-out from an existing corporation. Commercializing or licensing technologies from university or from research labs is certainly encouraged, assuming they have not previously been commercialized. What about prior activity in Canada's business model competition? Can students compete more than once? Ventures can compete in Canada's business model competition. This does not mean, however, that students cannot compete more than once. Students can compete more than once as long as they are working on a new venture idea or startup. Ventures can only be brought into the competition once. In terms of control of voting rights, the student members of the team must control a minimum of 51% of the venture's voting rights. Canada's business model organizers recommend maintaining this control for at least 2 years. Other points around eligibility. Do all of the members of the team need to be enrolled in university? The answer is no. Not all of the members of the team need to be enrolled in a university. Student venture teams can be comprised of non-student members. However, only student members of the team can compete in Canada's business model competition. That means that only the student team members can be included in the video for the application into the competition, and only the student team members can be included in the team that comes to the competition and pitches the venture and receives feedback. All of the regulations around eligibility for Canada's business model competition follow international business model competition criteria. This ensures there is comparability and compatibility among students moving from Canada's business model competition to the international business model competition, and that they adhere to the international business model competitions regulations. And it also ensures that Canadian teams are compliant with the international business model competition eligibility criteria, and that they are subject to the same set of rules around eligibility as their counterparts in other countries. If you are looking for more information on the eligibility, you can have a look at the International Business Model Competition website, and that is given at the end of this webinar. And as we mentioned above, under extenuating circumstances, student teams may submit inquiries around eligibility requirements, and they will be considered on a case-by-case basis of our organizing team. What does the weekend look like? Our detailed schedule of Canada's business model competition will be up on our website very soon. However, we can give you an overview of what the 2 days will look like. The competition begins mid-afternoon on Friday, March 4th. Registration and welcome will open at 2:30 p.m. and run to 4:30 p.m. as teams arrive. We don't expect all teams to arrive at the same time, as you will be coming in on different flights. However, we would ask teams to arrive and register before 4:30 p.m. on Friday afternoon. The registration and the entire competition will take place in the Rowe Building, Faculty of Management at 6100 University Avenue, Halifax, Nova Scotia. Following the registration and welcome, orientation for the teams will start at 4:30 p.m. This is where teams will learn about the rules, regulations, and what happens over the course of the competition. They will also learn their team's room assignment for the semifinal round happening the next morning, on Saturday morning, and they will receive an overview of the judging criteria. Following this, there will be dinner and networking, 5:30 p.m. in the Rowe Building. And in the evening, for those teams that would like to receive coaching and mentoring, we have a qualified set of mentors and coaches who will be assigned to help the teams prepare and practice their pitches. These coaches are very familiar with the business model competition, customer discovery processes, and business model validation. And they're very familiar with the rules and regulations of the competition. They will be able to help teams put their best foot forward in terms of timing of your presentation, content, and all kinds of other tips to assist teams with their pitches. These coaches and mentors are separate from the judges in the semifinal or final rounds of the competition. Saturday, the semifinal round begins in the morning. Expect the semifinal rounds to begin at 9 a.m. We ask teams to arrive at 8 a.m. Breakfast and coffee will be served with a networking session. Teams will proceed to the rooms where they will be presenting for the semifinal rounds. The semifinal rounds will take place throughout much of the morning, right up until lunchtime. And while lunch is taking place, the judges will confer, and following lunch, they will announce the winning teams moving on for the final round of the competition. Those teams that are moving forward for the final competition will have time to meet with mentors. They'll be able to change their presentation based on the feedback received in the semifinal round. They'll also be able to update their presentation. Final judging and scoring will take place mid-afternoon on Saturday, most likely following last year's schedule. This will begin at 2 p.m. And the closing ceremony and final announcements taking place at the end of the afternoon with an after party to follow. It's going to be a very exciting day, lots of learning, lots of networking take place. So let's talk about travel allowance. Each team will be allowed up to $1,500 for travel and accommodation expenses. Teams within the Halifax area will not be covered for travel and accommodation. Teams close to but outside of Halifax will not need the full $1,500 to cover their travel and accommodation expenses, but they can submit expenses with receipts for that portion of their travel and accommodation. When we talk about travel costs, it covers transportation costs, so for example, air travel or car transportation, as well as hotel expenses. Expenses for food and miscellaneous while traveling are not eligible for reimbursement. We follow the guidelines and policies of Dalhousie University, and all receipts must be submitted for reimbursement, and that includes boarding passes for your flights. Each team will be allowed to cover up to $500 in addition to cover the travel costs for a professor or a coach or a team mentor to travel with the team. A block of rooms has been reserved at a special rate at the Courtyard Marriott, which is located downtown Halifax on the waterfront and within walking distance of the university campus. It's important that each team and individual, you are responsible for obtaining and providing all of the original receipts for reimbursement. And again, we follow the Dalhousie policy on reimbursement. We want to be able to reimburse you, so please hang on to all of your receipts and your boarding passes. How to apply for the competition and prepare a great application. Please fill out the online application form found on the event website. The application consists of an 8-minute video submission. The video submissions make up the preliminary round of the competition and will determine whether or not you are accepted into Canada's Business Model Competition. Teams accepted to Canada's Business Model Competition in Halifax become semi-finalists and compete in the semi-final rounds on Saturday morning, March 5th. There are lots of resources on our website and online to help you prepare your video applications. Here are some key points that you want to make sure you include in your video. Because this is a business model competition, be sure to use the business model canvas. Teams need to show how they use the business model canvas to validate their business model, their hypothesis, as they move through the canvas using customer discovery and validation processes. You should also clearly identify the problem you are solving or the need you are addressing, the value proposition, who are your customers, how you will make money, etc. Be sure to show, the main purpose is to be sure to show how you use the business model canvas to validate your business idea. Explain any pivots your team has made and describe the lessons that you learned along the way. And be sure to include evidence-based changes or pivots in your validation process. Evidence-based, based on what customers or your interview, your customer discovery process told you. There are plenty of resources available on our website to help you prepare your video, including an example submission video from a previous participant in Canada's Business Model Competition. The team took 3rd place in 2014 and it's Sante West, and we're very pleased that Sante West has allowed us to use their video application as an example for other teams applying to Canada's Business Model Competition. A couple of additional resources. The Business Model Canvas can be found on YouTube. You can also go to Strategizer. There's a digital business model canvas that you can use to build your business model canvas and put images in. This can also be useful for your video submission. Also, there are all sorts of resources on the International Business Model Competition website, including videos of pitches for previous winners of the competition. The video link below is for the winner of last year's winner at the International Business Model Competition 2015. We look forward to your applications, and one important notice, application deadline has been extended to February 15th. We look forward to seeing everyone in Halifax for Canada's Business Model Competition on March 4th and 5th. We'll see you then. Bye-bye. For additional questions, please contact Akram Alotumi, Project Manager for the Canada's Business Model Competition. For any other questions, please feel free to email us at any time. Thank you.